Studies show that 100% of everybody in the world wants to curl up indoors and do nothing because it's so darn cold out there. That's why many people are turning to Bombas, whose pillowy plush slippers and warm merino wool socks have been said to be the most comfortable in the history of feet. Bombas products have been found to boost coziness by up to 1,000,000%. Okay, enough fake statistics, but could Bombas socks and slippers really be the cure? Go to bombas.com/audio and use code AUDIO for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com and use code AUDIO.
The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
構成藤田 Listening Keeping Strong Style.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, keeping it strong style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, keeping it strong style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh come and hit a job out in Barrio the Frogs. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll discuss the departure of Evil, preview the last 2 Road to New Beginning shows, and cover all this news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Please support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network and Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice, and leave a rating and review. You also get all the network's podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. And we are streaming live right now on patreon.com/KI Strong Style. If you want to watch our show live or listen without ads, you can sign up at patreon.com/KI Strong Style. Young boy, how you doing, man?
Doing as well as possible, considering that the fucking country's in disarray.
Yeah.
And we are having some technical snafus here. Sounds like there's some delays between the two of us. I don't know if there's issues with our internets. Not sure, but hopefully the kinks get worked out as we record.
Yeah, seems like it's getting better as we're going, but yeah, definitely crazy times. And yeah, hopefully this podcast can serve as a distraction to a temporary distraction for some of the things that are going on in the world right now. But
I literally was at the point last couple of days where I was like, fuck, I don't really want to do this show. It feels like anything that might be going on in this company right now is pretty trivial. Just in terms of like the atrocities we're seeing. And then Evil was announced as leaving the company. And I was like, oh shit, we got something we can actually sink our teeth into and talk about. All right. So you want to talk about not to make light of the situation, but a nice little distraction. Here we go. A nice little distraction, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Before we jump into Evil, couple housekeeping things. First of all, like Josh mentioned last week, and like we've been mentioning on the show, things are changing up with the Patreon. So starting next week, everybody on the $5 tier, you're going to get the live video every week. If you're on the $10 tier, the IWGP tier, what I need you to do is you need to downgrade to the $5 tier. I cannot, automatically do it for you. So you need to go in and downgrade to the $5 tier. Or if you want, you can just keep paying $10. But the video is going down to $5, so I don't want to overcharge you guys. So
is there not a way to just delete the $10 tier?
There is, but then it totally boots them off as a subscriber versus downgrading them. So we're
basically waiting for people to move to the $5 tier so we can eradicate the $10 tier essentially.
Yeah. So if you're listening right now, you're on the $10 tier, go ahead and downgrade down to the $5 tier. Or, I mean, again, if you want to just be generous and keep giving us $10, that's fine too. But downgrade down to the $5 tier, and then the live video will be on the $5 tier going forward every week.
Yep. My suggestion was going to be, hey, if you really can support the show and you're already on the $5 tier, you can jump into red circles. They allow you to send in donations. Some people automate those donations. That's always appreciated. But if Patreon allows you to just stay on the $10 tier, you're more than welcome to. You're not going to get anything extra at this point, but I'm sure there might be some people be like, fuck it, whatever. But either way, we're very excited to move all the functionality and access for the content that we create to the $5 tier. That way we can Dan Coffin, I might stay at $10 because I'm money to stick. It's going to be great to have more people in the chat. We'd like to foster a little bit more of a sense of community amongst the chats here, and get interactions and feedback from you guys as we're doing the show live. So that's we're looking forward to that.
Yep. So $5, you'll get the video, plus you'll still get all the bonus audio. So Tanahashi, Ace of the Universe, my Dominion deep dive, first few episodes of that's up there. So any bonus audio we do will be on that $5 along with the live video every week.
Yeah, I do intend to get back in the swing of things with Tanahashi, Ace of the Universe. It's been a little bit of a struggle readjusting to life in America after experiencing Japan, Yeah.
So speaking of Japan, we brokered a deal while we were there in Japan, and proud to announce Joshiing Around, now part of the Social Suplex Podcast Network, had their network debut this past week. Their first episode kicked the door down, 4.5 hour episode. So if you are a big fan of Joshi, check out Joshiing Around. Tim Hunter and Eric, they cover everything. It's not just a Stardom podcast. It's not just Marigold. It's not just your Tokyo Joshi Pro. It's everything that you can think of. These guys are breaking it down, covering it every week. Both these guys also, are very involved in the newsletter and are doing a great job of covering the Joshi scene. So make sure you check out Joshiing Around. Subscribe to them on their individual feed. Check them out on the network feed. Give them a donation if you want to as well.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Tim Hunter when I was in. Actually, it was funny when you said we brokered a deal while we were in Japan. I'm like, wait, what deal did we broker when we were in? What do I not know that you're about to announce right now? No, but yeah, I had a conversation with Tim the day that we were still in Japan when you had already boarded the flight, Jeremy, and he was kind of giving me the rundown how they compile the show and develop it and put everything together. And he sent me a copy of like their run sheet. And bro, like, I know we have lengthy episodes. It puts our run sheet to shame. Like it is so extensive, and they got their shit together for real. I was like, I was pretty impressed. I was like, man, this is really something. And I mean, I couldn't imagine doing a show to the extent that they do, just covering, like, let's say as a comparison point, just covering men's Joshi, right? So not just New Japan, but
all Japan, big Japan, DDT,
yeah, Dragon Gate, DDT.
Dude, that would be nuts.
Like, they're covering the entire women's scene. Some of it selectively, but they really are dialed in and tuned into everything that's happening. It's I know there's some other shows out there, but I think we got the good one.
So yeah, check them out, Joshiing Around. Then next thing, January is almost over, and there are no more televised shows for the month of January. So it's a great time to name our January Wrestler of the Month and Match of the Month. And kind of an interesting month, but also kind of a difficult one to pick between what happened between Wrestle Kingdom, New Year's Dash, a little bit on the road to New Beginning. But here's where we settled into Wrestler of the Month, going with the Gene Blast, Yota Tsuji. Big win in the semi-main event at Wrestle Kingdom, wins his first world title. He lives up to the promise, brings back the V4, restores the lineage. He starts his own faction in the Unbound Company, and it's kind of the focal point of the promotion right now. So I thought it was a great month to give it to Yota Tsuji.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like if anybody else, not to diminish what he's accomplished there, because obviously the match in the Dome was incredible. So much so that I personally still to this day, I think it's the better in-ring product than what we're going to name as the match of the month, the match with him and Takeshita. That's just my personal opinion. But, the rest of the month was really he spent the rest of the time involved in multi-man matches against United Empire, kind of building up for the feud with Jake Lee, which is fine, but that kind of left an opportunity for someone else to potentially stand up. And if anybody had just put in a couple really great performances, even just 2 back to back, you could have potentially made the argument, like, if Knockout Brothers or like say, Zach and Oiwa or someone like that were to have like put in another effort that push them over the, over the limit, then they would be the ones probably taking home this award. But the way the schedule just kind of worked out post January 4th, there wasn't really many opportunities for anybody to differentiate themselves and really stand out or capitalize on opportunities. So it does, as of right now, based on the strength of just that one match alone, the consistency of the multi-man tag matches, and then all the accolades, basically I'm not unifying the titles, but, winning both belts, kind of bringing some prestige back, bringing back the V4, restoring the lineages, creating a new faction and sort of just being like you said, the focal point of everything. That's why he's a Wrestler of the Month.
Yep. And then for match of the month, going to go with the main event from Wrestle Kingdom, Kazuchika Okada versus Hiroshi Tanahashi. And like you were saying, if you compare it bell to bell, hold for hold, move for move, I think that, yes, Tsuji versus Takeshita probably is the better match. But when you look at the grand scheme, the people came for Tanahashi. The Dome was sold out. This was one of their best matches that they've had in years. And I thought it was just an awesome emotional matchup. The Tanahashi's retirement match. There's just so much more emotional weight to that main event that I think that it deserves being the match of the month over Tsuji and Takeshita.
I feel like this might be a situation for me where I need to go back and rewatch the match. I haven't done that since I've been home. I have had some, I've felt a little bit compelled to do it, but I just haven't felt in the right place to pull the trigger and go ahead and sit through that emotional experience one more time. But with that being said, the majority of individuals that saw these matches felt like this was one of the greatest matches that they saw. Obviously Dave gave it, I think the highest match rating of Tanahashi's entire career, which is, pretty lofty, although you can't always count on his ratings these days are a little crazy.
Deflation.
Yeah, bro. Like he gave that most recent tag match 5 1/4. And I was like, one of the greatest tag matches ever in the entire history of Japan. I don't know, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I love that match. I also didn't get to talk about it last week, but yeah, I thought it was a great main event. I'm more like 4.5 range.
Right. Me too. And that doesn't sound like a huge difference, but it is a huge difference because we're talking about something that is 4.5, which means super special, versus 5 1/4. One of the handful of greatest matches that has ever occurred in the entire history of the sport. Did I feel like that's what I was seeing? Was it that much better than the 1-5 tag team match? The one with TMDK and KOB I don't know. I think they're about on the same level, basically.
Yeah.
So anyways, getting back to the point, I just feel like I probably need to rewatch Okada Tanahashi, because being there live and being so heavily invested in an outcome probably was a different experience from like watching it a little bit outside of being right there in the midst of it, you know?
Yeah. All right, let's jump into things now with the news of Evil departing New Japan Pro Wrestling. So there was a little announcement up on the website on NJPW1972.com saying thank you for supporting New Japan Pro Wrestling. After careful consideration and discussions with NJPW management, Evil, who has been a long-standing member of the NJPW roster, will leave New Japan Pro Wrestling at the expiry of his contract at the end of January 2026. We apologize to fans for the sudden nature of this announcement. New Japan Pro Wrestling wishes Evil the very best in his future activities. So news made official. Obviously last week, Super J-Cast kind of broke the news that Evil was on the way out, headed to WWE, and then there was follow-up on The Observer, on Flagship Patreon. So it kind of started, very kind of trickled out, and then more and more of the bigger sites started covering it and getting it out there. So shout out to our boys over at the Super J-Cast for kind of being the first ones to getting that news out there and breaking that news. And then we're just kind of waiting, for this moment, for the lion mark, for, when's this finally going to happen? And so the news dropped today. Evil is done, and there are no more shows televised in Japan. I think there are a couple of house shows that are non-televised. He's not on those. He's not on the New Beginning in Osaka, so he is done. We are no longer going to see Evil in the cerulean blue.
In the famous words of one of the most recent Halloween sequels, Evil dies tonight. Okay. You said you've been waiting for the Lions mark for a few days here. I've been waiting for this about a decade. 2015, this Lions mark couldn't come soon enough. I've been 11 years now, bro. It's time. Man. Let's fucking go, bro. Let's fucking go.
Yes, I was so happy. I was, throughout the celebration gifts, the popping champagne gifts. I'm like, oh my, I was fine with Evil, LIJ Evil, he had some decent little never matches, and, him and Sonata were a fine little tag team. And then the pandemic happened, and, we had the bright idea of, hey, let's put the belt on this man. Let's make this man the leader of the Bullet Club. Let's give him his own faction. I was like, oh my. Oh,
listen,
man.
Here's the thing. And I feel like we do have to be a little fair, a little nuanced for a few reasons, because there has been some level of, I don't want to overblow it, but some level of business success, when it comes to the House of Torture, the Evil brand. There's been good even though I'm very critical of New Japan's utilization of Evil and House of Torture and the booking over the past, say, 5 years since the pandemic era. There, in a vacuum, there's plenty of times where you can point to good utilization of Evil, and his contributions to the company are numerous. Him being a good soldier, playing his role. There are things that he has had success with that the company has counted on him for. That's totally fine. And then there is a sentiment of deep invested New Japan fans, because here's the reality, Jeremy, is like, okay, we talk about the height of New Japan's popularity here in the West was primarily prior to AEW and primarily prior to the global pandemic. Those two things occur basically simultaneously, essentially, and just a few months removed from one another, maybe 6-7 months removed from the pandemic kicking off and AEW formally launching. And actually, the first couple Dynamites were Q3 of 2019, right?
Yeah, October 2019 was when the first Dynamite happened.
The pandemic started in March? So
Yeah.
It was March. It was definitely March because I was, me and my now wife, we were in Asheville the week before the lockdown started, and that was for her birthday. So yeah. So those two things kind of coincide. And the reason I mention that is this: New Japan, the popularity of the company started to go downhill. And there's a lot of reasons for that beyond just those two things, but you can kind of point to those being the major catalysts that led to New Japan's diminishing popularity in the West. And since that time, there has been new fans that have either come along or older fans that have stuck with the product. But, Jeremy, I think oftentimes we don't give the company credit for this, but there is a newer batch of fans from the West who only attached themselves to this product in an era where Evil was a top guy, a former champion, and the leader of Bullet Club / House of Torture. And so they've attached themselves to this guy. And there's a lot of fans that are very upset, both domestically and abroad. And they have good reason for that. It partially because it's like, he's a main player. This is a company that they are invested into. He's a major part of it. And so they love him and they are going to miss him because they have that emotional attachment. Right. And that's totally fine. And that's totally fair. But I say all that to say this: we got to be fair about this. But I fucking hate Evil. I have always hated Evil. I have never liked him. This isn't a new thing. This predates Keeping It Strong Style. It went through Keeping It Strong Style. It continued into the era of Evil getting pushes and becoming the man for House of Torture. And I have never liked him. Now, when I say he sucks or I don't like him, does that mean he can't work? He can't go between the ropes? No, that's not the case, because here's the sad truth is, and this is the reality a lot of people don't like to admit. There is, with a couple exceptions, there is no such thing as a bad wrestler in New Japan Pro Wrestling. People like to say there is because they like to pick and choose who they, approve of or they like or entertained by. But you ask anybody who's in the industry, there's a certain level and standard of ability and capability that exists. And everybody who is under contract with that company can go on a level that the majority of Western wrestlers and people abroad might just pretty much cannot match.
In terms especially if you're coming out of that Noge Dojo system, which Evil did. I mean, even you look at the Young Lions, like sometimes they do things that American pro wrestlers or other wrestlers around the world just don't do. There are little details, there's little cells, there's spots, there's just certain very intricate details that they learn in the Noge Dojo. That's just kind of a part of Japanese wrestling that you'll see in other promotions.
That's 100% the case. So, would it be a factual thing to be like, he sucks, he can't actually wrestle? No, that's not true. He's a very good wrestler, but so is everybody else that's in the company. And there is a certain level of working standard of top level of athleticism and entertainment and ability that the reality is Evil has never been able to go on the same level as the top guys that built this company and made it into what it has been over the last 15 or 20 years. He's never been able to do what those guys could do. And from just a pure fan perspective, the fan in me who enjoys watching guys go out there and put on classic sporting wrestling, classic death-defying action, work rate wrestling, top line, main event style stuff. He can't do it. And we've had to sit through the last at least 5 years of this guy being pushed as a top act commodity, fucking up G1s, fucking up title reigns,
New Japan Cups,
basically being the focal point so often during pandemics, during clap crowds, during all of this stuff, and us just having to eat it, just munching on this shit. It has literally sucked. And I understand why people are sad about it, but I say good riddance. Ding dong, the witch is dead. This is nothing but an opportunity for somebody who's more skilled, more talented, younger, got less bumps on their bump card, more creative ability, to step into his role and be a star, period.
Yeah. You know, I had a teacher in 8th grade. His famous saying was, you see the door, use it. And so, Evil, I'm glad you saw the door and you're using it. And, you know, I'm right there with you, man. Like, we started this podcast because we were tired of WWE and their crappy booking and kind of the traditional American-style wrestling, ref bumps, ref distractions, interference. It's like, yeah, we want to cover the king of sports, New Japan Pro Wrestling. We want to see this sports-based, sports-centric style. We got these classic main events here, you know, your Okada Omegas, your Okada Tanahashi, your Okada Naito. Like, we got all this stuff, and I get it, you know, that was the golden age, and, you know, there was a special circumstance, a special set of wrestlers. However, there's still this baseline expectation of what you should get from a New Japan Pro Wrestling main event and main eventer, and Evil was just never that. And like you mentioned, yes, he is a good wrestler. He came out the No-Gay Dojo system. You know, I would say he was even a good promo. Also, we don't understand Japanese. I will say he was very charismatic. He always kind of understood his character and seemed to be, you know, get over with the crowd and get elicit reactions. But when it comes down to his actual, like, in-ring work on a main event stage, he just wasn't there. If he wasn't in there against Okada or Ishii or Ospreay, like some of the best wrestlers in the world, you know, he's not sniffing 4 stars if he's not in there with one of those guys. And I get it, star ratings are subjective, blah, blah, but I don't get how you could watch Okada Omega, Okada Tanahashi, Okada Naito, and then watch an Evil main event and be like, these two things are on the same level. And like you mentioned, we've had to sit through numerous tournaments, numerous angles, numerous ref distractions, ref bumps, garrote wires, lights turning off, you name it, over and over and over again. And yes, Evil did have some few moments. Also, most recently, that the Aaron Wolf match was a masterpiece from him, and he's had those few spotlight moments. But think of all the crap that you have to sift through to get to those few golden nugget moments that he gave to New Japan Pro Wrestling. And yes, I get it. He put his body on the line. He gave a lot to promotion, a lot to the company. You know, he was most recently in the dojo helping a lot of guys. He's helped Aaron Wolf. But from a fan perspective, I don't care about that. I want the great main events. And he had a great little spot as a, you know, upper mid-carder, a never guy, a tag team guy. And some guys just need to fill that role. And he had no business filling the role as a main eventer. And if you want to argue with us, pull up his attendance numbers. Like, he was on top, like you mentioned, 5-6 years now. Were the people running in the building to see Evil in the House of Torture? I don't think so. Yeah,
that's an interesting thing. I thought about that because I know, here's the thing. Well, one thing I want to address that you mentioned was like, okay, there are cases where you can point to quote unquote great matches. You know, in a vacuum, there are times where you can say like, hey, I really enjoyed that one particular Evil performance, right, against certain guys. For every one of those with the same guy, like you're talking about times where he wrestled like Okada or Ishii or Ospreay or whoever, there's times where he shit the bed with some of the greatest wrestlers that were out there in big money spots, big main events, big, you know, spots in tournaments where it should have been much more than it actually was. They just flat out stunk. Immortality 777 says this segment sounds like a preview for the 2026 FOH draft. No, we're not imbibing tonight, so there's that. It'd be a little bit more unhinged if it was. So you know, the thing is, it's not even just like he gets carried consistently by top guys. It's like, no, he drags top guys down to bad matches consistently throughout his run. And I know there's some folks who are going to say like, well, he's a heel, you're not supposed to like him. And my response is, you're not supposed to hate watching the product when it's a heel either. You know, like, I don't know, a comparison from years past. Abdul the Butcher didn't make me want to stop watching professional wrestling, you know, just because he cheated. You know, there was a way to do all that shit. As far as like the attendance, I know that there are going to be people who are going to point to everything and say like, you just didn't get it. You don't understand how popular he was. And maybe there is some validity to that. Like, do I think that they did good, like responses in the building? Yeah, I think they did. Did they do good with merch sales? Probably. You know, some of this stuff is very cloak and dagger. Like, people like to assume that they know the inner workings of who is selling what merch and who is doing what business when it comes to New Japan. And yeah, they're a publicly traded company, but they are still very hush hush about the actual figures of, you know, when they're giving out their business metrics, they're not giving individual recognition to groups or individuals for what they attributed to the success or failures of the company when they're doing like the financials. It's just not something that they do. You can infer at times where the company has done well, how his act or his group may have affected those things. I know that when we, when we went to Tokon Shop, they had it is funny because when we went to Tokon Shop, they literally had their own section for just House of Torture merch, which spoke to me. And
well, each faction had their own. That's how the store was split up. Like, there was the Hantai section, there was LIJ section.
Right. They were like sectioned off, but like, you know, if you noticed, most of them were like along the wall next to each other. And then House of Torture was its own thing with its own sign above it in the center of the store. And nobody, literally, I swear to God, nobody from that was there. Nobody was circling. Like, it was a madhouse in that building when we were there. They were like, you know, you were basically having to line up down the street and be let in.
Yeah,
you know,
they were limiting how many people were in there. Yeah,
right. And so to basically go to any section, it was like you were squeezed in. You were like touching people, and you're like, "Oh, excuse me, sorry, sumimasen, blah blah blah." Sumimasen. But at that portion where it was the House of Torture portion, completely breezy. That's where I went to stretch my legs because there was nobody. I'm not being facetious. I swear to God, that's where you could go and get a little bit of reprieve, stretch your elbows out, and then go back into the insanity because nobody was buying any of their merch. But I say that to say this. It seemed like it was quartered off as a highlight in the central portion of the store, and it probably is to a Japanese audience. They probably do business. They change merch constantly for those guys. It speaks to me that there's probably a high demand. We see the shirts in the buildings. They're popular. That's fine. But the company has also only been growing very incrementally and been struggling throughout all of these years. So, like, have they helped to steady the ship in the midst of turbulent waters? Sure. Have they been a driving factor behind the success and ticket sales of New Japan? I don't know. I don't feel like you can, maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe there's somebody who can dive deep into the numbers, but like, I personally don't feel like there has been a plethora of massive evil numbers to point to him at the top of the company as being like the guy. He definitely is somebody that they put in prominent positions time and time again, which means that they trust him as a hand. They trust him to do some level of business moderately. Like, they've had some level of success with him. So business wise, fan wise, it's great. For me, I fucking hate watching it. It is the antithesis of everything that I have ever loved about New Japan Pro Wrestling. He is the poster child for what I feel like is the dog shits of this company. Of, if you were to basically ask me, Josh, okay, you have hated Gato's booking for the last 5 years. Who would be the biggest representative of what you don't like about New Japan over the last 5 years? Evil. He is the poster child. You would put his mug on the fucking milk carton and he would be the guy. Jeremy, I mean, what do you want to add to this?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's definitely been single-handedly ruined my enjoyment of the product over the years. And again, like we've talked about, there were a few highlight moments, but I feel for me like he's lessened my enjoyment more than he's increased it over the years. And you talk about the merch numbers and the ticket numbers and being a popular act. Well, there are over the history in pro wrestling, there's a lot of popular acts. It doesn't mean they become the main eventers. Road Dogg and Billy Gunn were not main eventing WrestleMania, and the New Age Outlaws were super popular. DX shirts are flying off the shelf. Like you can see those guys main eventing every pay-per-view and being the focal point of the show. Yeah, they had their segment. Oh, you didn't know? Like they got their pop, the crowd pop. They sold merch, but they weren't all over the TV screen. And to me, that was House of Torture. Like they were a popular mid-card act. They were kind of these heel stooges. But again, that has no business in your main event, up and down the card and over and over, and the faction got so big to the point where you're getting like 4 or 5 House of Torture matches on one card. And, maybe if it was very limited, maybe if they didn't do the ref bump so often, they did the garrote only, once every so often. But it was like every night, every Road 2, every New Japan Cup, every G1, every Super Junior Tag League, like every tournament, every night. And it just, to me, like that's not what I came to watch New Japan Pro Wrestling for. Like there's plenty of wrestling I could watch if I want to watch ref bumps, slow blows, interference. Like I want to watch like the hard hitting, the fighting spirit, the Cerulean Blue. Like that's what I came for. I did not come to watch these guys come out the clown car and they have all their weapons and they're choking everybody and doing all this stuff.
I wonder if we can come up with here's the thing. It's like, okay, what are all the just the standard in the standard rotation House of Torture gimmicks? So you got the low blow, you got the ref bump,
lights out,
pulling the ref out of the ring, right? That's one.
The wrench, the push-up bar, the garrote wire, ringing the bell before the match is actually over, whiskey
to the eyes. We're at 9.
The dick to dick contact.
Yep, dick to dick contact. We're at 10. Another one is recently they've been throwing powder in people's eyes.
Yep.
So the powder, they've been using the metal cookie sheet lately. Mm-hmm. Doki's got the pipe. That's 13 right there. Anything else? Is there any other like regular? The guitar.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Sonata with the guitar. Yeah,
Sonata with the guitar. Yujiro with the pimp cane. We're at 15 right now. Anything else that we have not?
I think those are like the key ones.
It's been years and years and years of the consistency of having to see these things being brought to the forefront and used as crutches over and over and over and over again. Now, granted, I get it. Evil's a heel. You're not supposed to like a heel, but I can name you a plethora of heels that have worked in this company that I didn't like, that were just fantastic performers and are indelible to the legacy of the championship, indelible to the legacy of tournaments, and to, basically what made this company what it is. The company is rife with these guys, right? I mean, you can point to Minoru Suzuki, Vader, Andre the Giant, Abdullah the Butcher, Stan Hansen, Tiger Jeet Singh, the Great Muda, Masahiro Chono. Did I say Jay White already?
No.
Jay White. There are tons. Great Bash heel with, Makabe.
Okada was a heel at one point.
Yeah, but I'm thinking of like the guys that you're like, these are the monster heels of the company. They are very evil and you don't like them. They suck. but they're fantastic workers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they still get the booze, but they still are entertaining. And every single one of those guys that I just named, I'm sure there's others, they blow Evil away in almost every facet. Now I do appreciate the way that he put over Aaron Wolf on the way out and made him look like $1 million and really, really like made the intention to do business, because Okada didn't do that fucking shit before he left. Naito didn't do that shit before he left. There's a lot of guys that didn't do those things that were top guys that should have put people over that refused to do it. And you got to give credit where it's due. But bro, for every time that we got to a semifinal in the tournament and we watched Evil get his comeuppance and his just due, right? And it was like, okay, that was so fantastic. Someone finally beat him. How many times did I have to sit through him for the remainder of the year, just suck up the entire company to where I'm like, I don't know that these 1 or 2 moments a year are worth the entirety of my displeasure watching the company.
Yeah.
And Jeremy, let me ask you, like, you know, the one title run that he had, it was very, very short lived, and it was intended to, you know, make him a player, but also build up Naito. I feel like it's this big black mark on Naito's career, and was never, obviously it's a victim to circumstances, but it was never what people wanted it to be. And I'm really struggling to consider to myself who from House of Torture is better off from having joined House of Torture, and who is better off from having worked with House of Torture and working with Evil when it was all said and done, other than Aaron Wolf.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about guys' careers, like Ren Narita was a promising, you know, young upstart. Look where he's at. Sho was a guy that we argued between, you know, Sho and Yo, who's going to be the breakout guy. Obviously, Sho, like, he's going to be this, you know, this great power junior, and look where he's at.
Bro, I listened to the episode of when he beat Naito for the title. I listened to some of that today just to kind of get a refresher. There's some things that were pretty prophetic that we talked about. And we're talking about Sho and Shingo's feud at the time and being like, man, these two guys could both be heavyweights. These guys got stars written all over them. And I'm like, oh, I forgot that. Bro, think about how crazy that is now in 2026 to be like, okay, there was a time where Shingo Takagi was feuding with Sho from House of Torture.
And it was great.
And it was one of the best feuds in the entirety of the company.
Yeah. Doki just recently turned, like, after having such a great run as junior champion, and now, you know, throw that horrible main event him and Desperado had last week, and like he's just doing like the worst work of his career right now. I feel like it's not actually, they might have helped him temporarily, but I don't feel like Jack Perry ever really recovered after the CM Punk incident. They tried to rehab him with this group. I don't think that was probably the way to go about things. I just can't really think of any particular feud where an individual came out of it stronger or looking better having had worked with Evil. Now, that's not to say, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying to you that Evil was selfish or that he didn't do business or that he didn't put people over, but there's a difference between putting people over and putting people over. And I feel like this is a little bit of a sneaky thing that probably some people don't recognize. You know how we always talk about like Chris Jericho doing kind of fakeish jobs over in AEW? It's like he puts guys over, but then the next episode he's back on top and they're not above him. Yeah.
That's like often where Evil ended up, unless the guy that he was losing to was already like a top champion. Very often, like Evil didn't move in the pecking order very, very much after having like lost to anybody. He pretty much just kind of stayed in the rotation, stayed where he was at, and didn't really, move. They just stayed a consistent presence that permeated the screen. And yeah, I hated it.
Yeah, and there was just nothing new, creative, or fresh with it. Like, obviously, first, like, the original turn with Evil, that was something new and fresh, but then year after year, like, it was just the same thing over and over and over again. Like, there was just no creativity, nothing exciting. Like, they just rehashed and, all those 15 spots we just listed out. It's like, man, like, what are we do? There's got to be something else we could do with a collection of these guys.
I will say this. There was a few of the things that we said during that episode, because I went back. I don't even know if that's the famous episode where there's the episode where people are always like, you buried evil so bad. Maybe it's that episode, but I don't know. I went back and listened to it. And yeah, we say some inflammatory things, but it's not any different from the inflammatory things we're saying right now. It's not that much different. I don't think anything we said was really that unfair or inaccurate. Most of what we said was accurate. Couple interesting things. We talked about how in 2020, we talked about how Bullet Club was done and they needed to get rid of the entire branding. And then we said that if there ever was a civil war because remember at the time he was there with all of the domestic talent and all
and Jay wasn't able to come in the country. Yeah.
And we're like, well, eventually at some point down the road, there's probably money in a domestic Bullet Club versus a foreign Bullet Club civil war. And then we're like, they'll probably do a story where the winner is the real Bullet Club. Very interesting. We were like 5 years ahead on that shit. And then I said something that was really prophetic. I said, whoever wins that feud will be the loser because they will still have to be Bullet Club. And they'll have an albatross sitting around their neck and it'll be not hot and it will be a dead name. Bro, how right was I about that when it comes to War Dogs? House of Torture was the group that continued on. The other group basically had to get co-opted into fake LIJ to stay relevant. So that's one interesting thing. The other thing that I did say is I said that Evil winning the title would be this black mark forever on the quality of the IWGP. And you know what? I don't know that that's totally the case because the way that I talk about it is actually closer to what happened with Sonata. Because what we really thought was we thought that Evil was going to get this shot, blow it, flounder, and move back down the cards. And it would be like 5 years later, be like, bro, remember that time when fucking Evil held the title? And I think they've kept him with enough dignity over the past 5 years, pushing him to a certain level to where it's like, yeah, it does fucking suck that he held the title, but it's not the black mark that saying Sonata. Remember 2 years ago, Sonata held the title. Oh, the guy with the big red fucking boots. So that is one thing that we were wrong about. But here's what we weren't wrong about. Evil is undoubtedly, and you can disagree about this, you can have your own preferences, but like just the general universal feeling about guys that can go and guys that can't go, he's one of the worst performing champions. And I don't mean as a champion, I'm talking about as a professional wrestler. He's a guy that never should have actually sniffed or touched that title. He didn't have the goods to go then. He didn't have the goods to go before or after. And when you look at the list of top stars who have influence, drew money, matter, he's not in that list of guys. There's quite a few names. It is funny. We actually listed a big group of guys that were more deserving of the title when he got the shot.
Yeah.
That wound up winning the title afterwards. Not all of them, but it was like at the time, it was like
Osprey,
Shingo, Suzuki, Goto, Zack Sabre Jr., Kota Ibushi. These guys can't be champion. You're going with Evil. And you know what? I still look back and I think, why the fuck? Look at the list of guys they had, and they went with Evil at that time. And he's forever etched into the title picture. And it is, whether you want to admit it or not, it is the moment where the title started to go downhill.
Yeah.
And it's only now starting to get restored in 2026 as they bring back the old title design and say like, hey, we're restoring what the prestige of what this title used to mean. And you know what? For everybody that's always clamoring, hey, we're so back. Do you know what being back means? It means Evil is not a top guy, because when this company was here the first time, the way that you always claim you want it to be back.
Yeah. 2015 to 2020.
He wasn't a player.
Yeah.
He was a tag team guy who occasionally fought for the Never title. And now he's gone. I do understand why people are upset. But ding dong, the witch is dead. I am not upset about this whatsoever.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm kind of ecstatic about it.
Oh, dude, I love it.
Here's the only bad thing about it, Jeremy. He will be back. Mark my words. And it will be sooner rather than later. He's not going to spend 10 years in the WWE system. 2 years tops. There will be nowhere else for him to go. He'll either be, if he does come back, he'll either do Noah shots with his buddies or he's coming home. And I bet you he comes home.
You don't think he's going to last in the Fed?
Oh, absolutely not. For professional and personal reasons.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe when he starts seeing that USD compared to the yen, he's like, I'll do whatever. You want me to be a part of the Wyatt family?
I think there's a D that he's worried about that's going to basically be the detriment to him sticking around in the first place. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But no, I think that guys like him, I think that this is going to be more akin to like a Kushida or a Sari, somebody who's like, they want to sign him, they get him in, they don't know what the fuck to do with him. He's not going to be able to connect on. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he'll be a henchman in some group in a heavy and stick around. But I just don't see him being a long tenured guy in WWE. I think it's a 1 to 2 year deal. And then he, depending on how long they have him signed up for. But I can almost guarantee you he's going to be back in New Japan. That's just my gut feeling. And this isn't like a Naito thing where it's like, well, there's nowhere else for him to go. So, they need him. He needs them. It's not like that. It's just like, he's a lifer. He's going to go there. It's not going to work out. And he's coming back.
Yeah. Well, we had a lot of questions here about Evil. First from Ginger Infringer. Says, with Evil leaving, how would you sum up his run and favorite match from him? So I think we kind of already summed up his run. Do you have a favorite Evil match?
I'll be honest with you. This is just the honest truth. I think when you say favorite match, that denotes the idea that it's a match that you like enough to where you would probably rewatch it. I don't have a single Evil match that I would ever. Jeremy's laughing, but I'm not trying to be funny. I'm being dead ass. Like, there's nothing that I would want to rewatch that is an Evil match. With that being said, there are matches that I can point to and say objectively they were good performances from him, but not something I personally favor.
Yeah, like if I have some free time and I'm like, yeah, I want to rewatch something. Yeah, I'm not throwing on anything that Evil's involved in. But yeah, I mean, we mentioned earlier, he had some great matches with Okada.
You know what match? You know what match I think you and I have rewatched a few times and he is involved in it, is when the Young Bucks beat him for the titles at Dominion. But that's more about the Young Bucks than it is about Evil and Sonata. Yeah.
But yeah, he had great matches with Okada. He had a G1 2019. He had a great match with Ospreay, a great match with Ishii. I mean, Ishii was probably one of his best opponents. But again, I'm not going back to rewatch or catalog any of those matches.
If there was one, if gun to my head, I had to pick one specific Evil match to go back and rewatch, it would probably be the January 6, 2020 New Year's Dash tag team match where it's him and Shingo versus Ishii and I don't know, was it Ishii and Goto?
That sounds right.
That match fucking is incredible, but like those are few and far between for Evil.
Yeah.
As far as his run, I feel like his run was way more successful than it had any right to be.
Yeah. I mean, it was a upper mid card guy, again, tag team guy, gimmicky guy that somehow broke through to the top of this company. And when you get, we listed off all those guys that should have been champion before him and they went with him. Like, it's just mind boggling when you look at the talent they had. It's not like now where like where we need to build stars. They had stars. They had great workers that they could have easily chose from, even with other guys leaving, and they went with him. So to their credit, they made a guy that had no business being a guy a top act, a main eventer, a former world champion. So yeah, the run was definitely a quote unquote win for getting somebody more over than they probably ever should have been.
But I've always felt that regardless of the short-term successes it may have had, I've always felt stylistically it's been a detriment to the overall image and brand of New Japan, and has more resounding effects than just what can be put on paper as and attributed to, like, hey, they sold a shirt, or hey, they put this number in a building. I know those things do matter. It is a business, but I feel like there's also, when a company is hot, and it feels cool and people want to see it and there's hype, rarely has Evil ever been part of that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
he's never,
he was only part of it because he was part of LIJ.
Yeah. Yeah. He was an LIJ guy. Who was essentially a hanger on, really, if we're being realistic about it.
Next question here from Foster Disbelief. He says, hey guys, love the show. Evil, and to a lesser extent, Finley's prospects in WWE. Should NJPW sign Kid to a dual contract if possible, or just cut ties?
Wait, what?
So he's asking for Evil and Finley's prospects in WWE.
But then what was the thing about a dual contract?
Should New Japan try to sign Gabe Kidd to a dual contract?
Oh, I don't know. That shit sucks. Yeah. So, I mean, as far as their prospects, I don't see them as being successes personally. Or if they are, I think that there are ceilings to how they can be utilized successfully in a company like WWE. I know that there are guys with irregular body types that have had success in New Japan, in WWE, like a Kevin Owens is a really good example. More recently, I guess, like probably to some extent Jacob Fatu, even though I don't really follow the company as much as I used to. I really kind of don't know exactly what's going on there. My dad the other day had to tell me that I guess Cody lost the title to Drew McIntyre. I was like,
that fake job.
I didn't see it. I don't even know about it, to be honest with you. But they have trouble booking and utilizing men's talents that are foreign, that don't speak English. They have trouble coming up with good utilization and gimmicks for guys like that. And for people that look like Evil, they usually have very stereotypical and very limited utilization. He's not really a body guy. He's not super tall. He's not the most dynamic athlete or offensive person. Get ready to see him lean into the ha-ha, the funny, the gaga. Probably not too different from some of the shit they've had with some of the other Japanese men's talents.
The first name that came to my mind when I thought about what Evil could be in New Japan and WWE, Kenzo Suzuki.
Kenzo Suzuki had much higher they had bigger plans for him in the beginning than probably what they will have for like Evil, Yeah.
And I mean, you mentioned this company's history of like not being able to push Japanese talent. Like, they were handed 2016 King of Strong Style Shinsuke Nakamura and couldn't figure out how to make him like a superstar main eventer, a guy that's main eventing every WrestleMania. They got Sari. And they wanted to make her an anime schoolgirl that had, essentially was Sailor Moon. They couldn't figure out what to do with her.
There's been a plethora of men's Japanese talent in WWE that have had varying degrees of success over the years. Akira Tozawa is a guy that is an incredible talent that you would think would have gone further, done better. They had Taka Michinoku in his prime. Funaki, those guys became gimmicks and jokes. Tajiri became a gimmick and a joke. Mm-hmm. They didn't know what the fuck to do with Kenta. They didn't know what to do with Kenzo Suzuki, who's tall. Yeah, Kushida. They didn't know what to do with him. I know that there are others that I'm not even thinking of off the top of my head. Like what's Jinsei Shinzaki? What was his name over there?
Hakushi, right?
Yeah, Hakushi. There's been quite a few like men's Japanese talents that have come over and you know they don't know what the fuck to do with them in most cases, you know. And I don't think necessarily that AEW has a much better track record as far as men go, but they're at least using Takeshi and Okada to a more dignified and important status than probably WWE would. Yoshitatsu is another one too. So I mean, there's been quite a few guys that have been over there. They don't have the track record. I don't see it. They're not going to have the creative for him. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. Maybe they could do something with him in NXT to some degree, but once he hits that main roster, if at all, it's probably a wrap.
Yeah, I mean, they're either going to lean heavy the comedy route, or I guess they could lean heavy in the spooky route. He can join the Wyatt Six and, be a spooky guy. You know, Taker's not there anymore, so I don't know. Lean into that, I guess. I don't know.
He could also just be a heavy, you know?
Yeah.
But in a land of giants, a guy his size, you know, he's got some size, but there's only, you know, even that there's only how imposing is Evil in a let's say you put him up against Drew McIntyre. How imposing is he going to look? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Put him up next to Gunther, who he himself has desized over the years, but like, it's not going to be
Randy Orton. Like,
oh yeah. Randy Orton's going to tower over him, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so yeah. But I get it. There are reasons he's going. I'm not even, critical of him making the move when he's making it. And you know, the reasons he's done it, chances are he was probably going to do it last year and then stuck around for a whole nother year to kind of help ready the ship. I mean, I don't have, on a personal level, I have nothing negative to say or think about, you know, Takaki Watanabe, but, Evil, the character, the wrestler, I fucking hate him. and I'm glad he's gone.
He also asked about Finley's prospects in WWE.
I don't know that that's where he's going. If he does, I kind of feel somewhat similarly, but there is a bit of I don't know. Sometimes you feel like the second generation thing could be really good for you, but it can also be really bad.
Yeah, I don't know how he's going to do there. He's a guy I can easily then being like, we don't know what to do with him. Like, let's make him a trainer in NXT.
I could see him being a guy in NXT.
Yeah. I could see him kind of in a Sean Spears loop where it's like, good hand. We're going to have him on NXT to help the young guys kind of get over, and he's not going to get out of that loop.
I could see him getting the push in NXT personally. I could see he's good enough at this point to be there and to make. I think he could ruffle feathers and have success in NXT, and then people beg for him to get to that main roster, and then he gets there, and then it's just a flounder.
Yeah. Next question, Death Triangle 720 says, let's say Evil does leave, which he is leaving. Do you think Ren Narita has enough to make himself the leader, or would they slowly disband the group?
Hard to say what they're going to do, but I'm not 100% negative on the idea that Ren Narita shouldn't be the leader. I know that there are a lot of individuals that don't have the faith in him. They don't trust him. They don't believe in him. But my feeling is, you wanted to push these Reiwa guys. The door has opened. He's the best worker in the group. And I don't think he's bad at the character either. I feel like there is an opportunity there to like really shake things up and actually make that into something. If they want to keep the brand and they want to push him.
Yeah. I mean, if they're going to keep the group, I would go with him as a leader. I mean, but I think now is a perfect time. You know, we've seen a lot of faction shakeups. LIJ is blown up, Bullet Club's blown up, Chaos is blown up. Like, I think it'd be a great time for, Narita to be like, we're no longer House of Torture. We're, what some other new thing. We're having a new mindset. Like, that was Evil's regime. This is my thing. And like going in a totally whole different direction than what they're currently going in.
I I don't hate that idea either. I've seen some people speculate that maybe like Jake Lee or Shota Umino, people like that should like take the helm and take over. And maybe there's something to that, but I am not the non-believer in Ren Narita that so many other people are. I do know that there's obviously the aspect that he's one of the only Reiwa guys that didn't get a singles match with Tanahashi, and maybe that speaks to some level of distrust. And I think that's valid, but I have to also consider the fact that he's had big singles main event title matches with both Jon Moxley and Zack Sabre Jr. And the Sabre match was pretty recently. Somebody's pulling for the kid on some level. You know, they see something in him.
Yeah. So I definitely think there's something there. But I think it would benefit him and the product in general if they kind of went away from the House of Torture direction and did something different.
Yeah, because I mean, you're kind of hoping that everybody gets, the scales fall off their eyes and they all kind of wash off the evil stink and try to become something new.
Yeah, or just, I'm not saying they become baby faces, but, just kind of change up what kind of heels they are. Mm-hmm. You could do something there, with Narita, Sho, Doki, and, like, have them lean it back into, like, what brought them to the dance, like their in-ring work, but then also just be despicable heels, too. Next question from Nikki Afro. With Evil leaving, does it change how you see the Never title match going for Ren, presuming he will now be the leader of House of Torture?
Yeah, I mean, I said last week that I didn't think it was entirely impossible to give that loss early to Aaron Wolf. And now that this new news has come out, I'm like, I don't know, maybe you do that. It doesn't have to be like the strongest, most definitive win in the history of the world. But maybe this is a time and an opportunity to get that belt off of him, give Aaron Wolf that first early loss, and, move some of the credibility over to Ren Narita. But I'm sure there's a lot of people that disagree with me on that. I'm sure that that's a controversial take, and there's a lot of people that feel like it's way too early for a guy of his stature to be taking pins.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's a little bit more to go for Aaron Wolf before you beat him right away. But again, it is a Never title, and he's still, again, developing and learning. And especially if you're going to keep House of Torture, you can pull out that 15, bag of tricks we mentioned and easily protect Aaron Wolf and be like, obviously he got, choked out by a rope wire. He got hit by a wrench. He got hit with the push-up bar, and Narita pinned him. So there's a way to protect him in losing if you keep the House of Torturism going. But I mean, I would keep the belt on him a little bit longer. Next question from MJ. Does Narita have the chops to lead House of Torture, or is he a total bum?
I don't think he is. Now, whether in terms of like from an in-ring perspective, he's clearly not. The guy can really go. And I think he, at this current time, is the best of House of Torture when it comes to playing a despicable heel, leaning into the gimmickry, the character work, while still staying believable and credible from an in-ring perspective and entertaining. Now, I'm not saying he knocks it out of the park all the time. I still have my frustrations with Ren Narita, but he's by far better at that than the remainder of the group at this current time. And I think he could certainly be the guy that you could go with if you have plans to push him, but you got to push him, so you kind of really have to commit to that. Mm-hmm. Could he flounder and fail? Absolutely. Do I know that he's going to be, I think the question on a lot of people's minds, a lot of people don't believe in him as a star. So where Evil was really boisterous and charismatic and, had that magnetism, there's a lot of people who don't feel that way about Ren Narita. Maybe they're correct. And if that's the case, maybe he's not the guy to go with. I'm personally of the opinion, like, you got to try with these guys. And if you put them in that spot, it was always with the intention someday to be the next one up. And that day has arrived maybe sooner than they anticipated. now's the time.
Yeah, and I just feel like the whole House of Torture thing has been a big, hamper on him. Like, you look at his work pre-House of Torture, everything he was doing in Strong, and then when he came back from Excursion, right up until he turned, like, his in-ring work was so great. I felt like he had a great character. I felt like he was connecting, and then now he's kind of hampered with this gimmick. And so I think that is very detrimental to him, and I think that kind of gets in the way of people, how they perceive him. They kind of see what he's currently doing, and it's like, yeah, he's a bum, he's trash, he can't lead the group. But it's like, this guy can go, and I feel like if there was a fresh coat of paint and we got rid of the shenanigans, like, he could be a very compelling person to have. Moving on to the next question here from Make Way for Slide. How do you think the heel dynamics in NJPW will change with the departure of Evil? He leaves a big gap as a decorated veteran wrestler and faction leader. Does someone ascend within House of Torture, or do they merge with another team to try and counter the Unbound Company? Will a person or group turn to fill the role at his rank?
Well, I do think that the group is, in my opinion, too large right now to just simply merge with another group. And even if you were going to do that, I'm not sure what other faction exists out there that would be ideal for that sort of merger. So for me, I would take that off the table. I don't think it's impossible that you see some form of a shakeup, whether it is like he just posited the idea that like Renarita steps up, or somebody from another faction makes the jump and is the new leader. Or like what you've mentioned, Jeremy, a total shakeup, a rebranding, basically realignment of whoever, some guys stay in the group, some, whatever that might look like. So, I don't know, Jeremy, who would you say like prior to this, like who've been like the top heels in New Japan? I guess for a while it pretty much was just like essentially Finlay and Evil.
Yeah. Last recent years, yeah, I'll say before that, we had Jay White, Suzuki. Yeah, in the last like 5-6 years, Evil and Finlay have kind of been the two guys push as the top heels.
The other thing though, and this is more of a historical point, is New Japan isn't always, and Japanese wrestling in general isn't always necessitated on the idea of having an outright evil force. There can be guys that are antagonists who are not 100% pure heels. You know what I mean? So there could be a stopgap with individuals who could, play a quasi heel if needed at the top of the card, while they still kind of like gather their wits and, build up a new, top heel, top evil, force within the company. But right now, the two guys that stick out to me as being like, well, I guess the three guys that stick out to me as like being potential for, position as top heels in the company would be like Jake Lee, Callum Newman, and Ren Narita.
Yeah, I think that the shift has kind of already been happening. I feel like United Empire is going to shift into that top heel group. There's been a lot of work rehabbing that group. And I think, you have Jake Lee kind of on the domestic side. You got Callum Newman, and then you still have like Okan, Hanare. They've been doing good stuff, turning, Akira heel and Jacob Austin Young. And then they got Zane J. I feel like they're going to be kind of like the faction that's really focused. I think they're going to be the top heels that you build around this year while they figure out what they're doing with everybody else. But yeah, as far as, I agree. I don't think they should merge. There's really no one for them to merge with. And I guess, you mentioned, people are talking about Uno turning or Umura turning. I guess you could do that, but I don't know, I feel like they got something good with their tag team going on right now. And like, I think there's a compelling story with them feuding without it being this big, like dramatic, low blow turn kind of situation. I don't know. I still feel like the best route to go is Narita takes over. It's a rebrand, almost kind of like, when Suzuki-gun took over Kojima-gun. It's like, all right, it's a rebrand. We're making the group now in Suzuki's image, and we're kind of going in this direction. I think that's probably the best way to go.
I mentioned this a few days ago, kind of offhandedly in one of the group chats, and I was kind of dismissed about it, but I know it's not going to happen, but there is still a part of me that's like, maybe push Taichi as the top heel in this company for a little bit. There is a part of me that's hesitant to say that because I remember what junior weight, pre-work rate Taichi was like, and it was just god awful.
Yeah.
And I know he is like the most beloved dude, but if there was anybody that could combine what I love about badassery in modern day Japanese wrestling, or, you know, it can pull from yesteryear, you know, be that connection to, you know, like the King's Road style, the heavy hitting, you know, the big drop suplexes and everything, but also have the pageantry, have the connection with the crowd, really be an incredible dick heel if he was given the chance to, and work at the top level. Taichi, like, to me is, I know that we're always saying like, push the young guys, but he's like a guy that's never gotten the opportunity. Not really. And I think he's like more than capable of it.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned you keep the in-ring work and you just kind of make it more of a sinister heel. Like, that could be compelling.
I would love it. Because he is quietly one of the single most beloved. It is funny because it's like, anytime you talk about how shitty some of these guys are, sometimes, you know, when you have criticisms specifically of someone like Evil, but there are other names through the years where, you know, a Western fan base like us, we have criticisms about the work, the creative, the character, what have you. Right. And then people are like, you don't get it. You don't understand how loved they are, blah, 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 blah. Sometimes that's true. Sometimes it's a little overblown. But like, they fucking love Taichi. They love him so much. Like, his connection over the years has, like, he's one of the most beloved guys in the entirety of the company. And I don't know if that would serve itself well for him to be the top heel, but I feel like he's been a heel so many times in the past. He can transition it and get, like, he's a smart enough worker to turn it into hate and heat and be that foil that other guys need if they allowed him to. Yeah,
I think that there's a natural story there of him having, you know, tried to, you know, qualify for G1 every year and being, you know, pinned by some of these young guys and kind of feel like he's being passed over. Like, he can use all that to kind of fuel his rage and, you know, try to hold onto his spot and not let these young guys overtake him.
Yeah, with and there's I guess we're going to talk about it here in a moment. There's other exoduses and, you know, impending departures. So we kind of thought that a guy like Taichi would get more opportunities when some of these other exoduses and departures took place, and it really never came to fruition. So maybe now's the time. I don't know.
Yeah.
or maybe he'll just continue to be the elder statesman, good hand, you know, and just continue teaming with Kojima and Ishii, and that's about it.
Yeah. Last two questions here from a special guy. This is top 5 Evil House of Torture matches. I have none to list off.
Since he joined House of Torture, I do remember I really liked the Hiromu match.
That's right. Yeah, that match was good. Also, the Aaron Wolf match.
The Aaron Wolf match is definitely a standout. I know that I consistently liked these, but I know that there has been at least one notable Zack Sabre Jr. match during one of the tournaments, although I don't remember which one it was.
they had a couple of times they wrestled each other.
Right, but sometimes it was just like quick
roll up,
roll up banana peel sort of shit, and that's all it was. But I feel like they actually had like a good match. And then I feel like
what about the Takeshita G1 final match?
Oh no, I fucking hate that match. That match sucks. Maybe some people like it. I don't like that match. I guess I'm gonna have to go to the handy dandy cage match and look at Evil's matches. But here's the funny thing is, like, he's so divisive that, like, there's stuff that he has really highly rated that I me personally didn't like, and there's a lot of stuff that I did like of him that's like not so highly rated. So and you know what the funny thing is, it's mostly the anything post House of Torture is just like I'm trying to think. Well, I don't know. I guess maybe you could throw in that dog pound cage match he was in.
Yeah.
I guess so. We're at 4. And I feel like there's something else that I kind of liked. Okay, I know what it was. You could probably point to one of those tournament finals that he got knocked out of, but it would kind of be like your personal preference, like which one it was. Like he was in the take a look here, semifinal G124. I think I liked the G124 semifinal, if I recall, or maybe it was 2023. See, that's the thing. It's like they did that shit like pretty often, where they would put him in these semifinals and finals and then have him get eliminated. Yeah, him and Evil and Okada in the 2023 G1 semifinals. A lot of people didn't like it. I think I liked it. Yeah. There's one where Shingo, I feel like there's one with him. I'll just go with that one.
Yeah, the one with Shingo, I think that one was pretty good.
But I don't even remember when it was. So it's kind of hard. I guess I could look up the Shingo matches. You know, what's funny is like I don't like any of the Naito matches.
Yeah. I know people love the Jingu Stadium.
August 23rd. So Evil beat Shingo in the C block in the 2023 G1. 2021. God, these matches suck. And then in the 2024, yeah, so like in 2023 and in 2024. Oh no, that's right. Shingo defeated Evil in the A block final in G1, or at least on night 13.
Well, 2024.
Mm-hmm. But I that one has a 4.54. I don't know. I guess those are my top 5. I would go with just to briefly recap: the Hiromu match, the Aaron Wolf match, the
Dog Pound
steel cage match, the Okada G1 semifinal, and there was one other one I mentioned, but I don't remember what it was. Oh, one of those Zack Sabre matches, but I don't remember which one it was.
And they also asked top 5 Fed opponents for Evil.
I don't even know who's in the company anymore, really. I could just name you a couple random guys that are in the company, but I don't even feel like that's fair because I don't have an exhaustive list in my head of who works there.
How about Tamatonga, Talatonga, Tangaloa, JC Mateo?
That was one of my I'm kind of bummed to learn that, very soon AJ Styles is going to be, out of the company, because I was hoping they could reform the Bullet Club, with all the OG members, Talatonga, Tama, Tangaloa, right? So you got those 3 guys. Finn Balor's there. AJ Styles, and then you bring in
Evil,
like the Bullet Club, bro.
Well, who knows? Maybe AJ beats Gunther and keeps his career alive.
That's not gonna happen. I didn't even know who he's wrestling. I've just seen the post where like he's done. So I'm like, oh, okay, he's retiring, I guess. Yeah. Actually, I thought the match with Nakamura was his retirement.
No, that was just he wanted to have one more match with Nakamura, which I heard was actually a great match.
It was on a Saturday night's main event.
Yeah, So yeah,
apparently.
AJ is facing Gunther at the Rumble, and if he loses, he's done.
This might be like the first Royal Rumble in many years I just don't watch.
Oh, I can't remember the last time I watched the Royal Rumble.
Oh, I love the Royal Rumble.
So some other impending departures. So we got Sonata, which he technically hasn't departed yet. They announced that he was taking a temporary leave, but they haven't announced he's fully gone from the company. But there is speculation that he is, so wrecked that he's probably going to retire from wrestling. There is Hiromu Takahashi. There's heavy rumors that he will be finishing up with the company, and people are speculating that he's probably going to go to Noah, be a part of Los Tranquilos de Japón. David Finlay and Gabe Kidd from the Unbound company are also rumored to be departing as well.
Yeah, honestly, this is a case where, and I don't mean to be that guy, I just don't personally at this current time, not that these aren't really good wrestlers, not that they don't have importance to the overall brand, or that they haven't contributed a lot or meant something. They all have. But we're at a current juncture where I don't feel that any of them are completely super integral to what is going on in the company, or that I trust the company to do what is necessary to utilize these characters in ways that I would be invested into. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, and I can just kind of go down the list very briefly. I put a post about this in our Discord, but Sonata, hell of a hand, incredible wrestler, got his run, but for me, never was able to get to break out of his own ability to gain the confidence and the have the sort of the charisma needed to stay a top guy in the company, Yeah,
and that's the thing with him, his whole career. He's been in so many places where he was supposed to be the ace and they were supposed to build around him, and he just never had the charisma or the confidence in himself to be portrayed in that role. And that's happened time and time again with him.
With Hiromu, one of the most dynamic, characters over the past decade or so, and a guy that I think is on the short list of top, 4 or 5 juniors ever in the history of the company. But with that being said, he's done everything there is to do in the junior division at this current time. There's really nothing left for him to do, and they don't have the intentions to push him as a heavyweight, even though they should. And he's not going to grow enough inches or put on the type of physique that is necessary for them to take him seriously and put him as a heavyweight. And since they're not going to go that way, there's really just nothing left for me to care about when it comes to Hiromu.
Yeah, I did hear that there was talk that Hiromu was actually the one that has pushed back being heavyweight. The company actually did come to him and wanted to push him as a heavyweight, but he was the one that wanted to remain a junior. But yeah, there is nothing left for him to do in that division. And to me, he just seems like he's going through the motions. Like, he's been doing some Noah stuff, like in that Noah stuff, especially that Amaxa match. It seems like, he's kind of refreshed. He had something new to bite his teeth into, and like it seems like, even him himself, like, he's kind of like over New Japan or Japan, and so I just feel like, it's probably time for him to go. Like, there's no fresh opponents really. He's won the belt. He's won the tournaments. If he's not going to be a heavyweight, like, there's not really much left for him to do.
David Finlay is a guy that grew immensely, improved to, incredible heights. But this past year was the point of no return, where it was like, hey, you need to shit or get off the pot when it comes to this guy. And they decided not to put the title on him. And unless they have plans to make him a top level guy, which means hold the title, have a reign, and be a consistent picture, be one of the top 4 or 6 guys of the company, And, you know, potentially with right now with Evil leaving, if he was sticking around, then your quick answer to be like, who's going to fill the void and be the top heel? It would be him de facto. But since he's not sticking around, it is sort of like, well, what's there left to do? You know, where's he go from here? Because they already did the lightweight thing. He's no longer the head of his own group. The natural progression should be he bolts off of the group. They have a feud. He either reforms the War Dogs or does something different and goes for the title. They're not going to tell that story. What else is there left for Finlay to do here?
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that, you know, he had the tag run, the Finju stuff, and, you know, he kind of toiled in the mid-card for years and finally was able to break through and become a top guy. And so, yeah, I feel like he's done everything there really is for him to do except, yeah, win the title, and that they clearly decided not to go in that direction. And, yeah, it just opens up another spot for somebody else. And, yeah, I think Finlay ended up becoming, you know, a compelling guy and did a lot of good work. But, yeah, at this point, I guess, yeah, the only thing would be for him to leave Unbound Company, reform War Dogs, but it seems like, you know, they're done with Bullet Club in general. They had the retirement sale of all the merch, so I don't see him kind of just being under Tsuji, so.
And the last one here, Gabe Kidd. Gabe is probably the biggest what if because he never got to the levels of star that he seemed to be projected to be, especially coming out of January 5th, 2025. And the company failed to pull the trigger at the right time when this guy was right on the cusp of superstardom. And he killed his character and killed his own credibility by basically walking back everything that he proclaimed in kayfabe as a character by going to work for AEW. Like that in the mid-year of last year crushed his credibility and literally made him a guy that you can't really go with as a top commodity or that the fans could invest and believe in on that level. Because when you know, for instance, I've heard the story before, like where, you know, certain wrestlers have talked about how, like, you know, I forget who the famous story is. It might be from like Terry Funk or something, but talking about like, you know, the Sheik was a guy who worked at a level that was so low for so many years that when he got old, nobody could tell that he was old because he was already working like he was old when he was young. And so they just wanted him to basically continue to do the things he did when he was young. And then for a guy like Terry Funk, who was a madman, as he got older, the demand for him to continuously put his body on the line and up the ante was always there. And it was like, I can't keep doing that. For a guy like Gabe, when you make your whole persona about being this outlandish, boisterous shit talker, and you're talking shit about AEW, you're talking, you know, to Tanahashi about bending over and taking it from the back and yada, yada, yada. And, you know, shit talking Tony Khan. And then you show up on their TV and then all of a sudden, like, you're working dual dates. And, you know, you're like, I'm the defender of Shinny Han for life. This is my heart. This is my soul. This is who I am. And then if you make that your gimmick and then you go back on the gimmick, nobody can take you seriously. If that had never been his gimmick and he just started working dual dates, this wouldn't have been the problem that it became for him. But because he wrapped himself in that lion mark flag, he fucked himself.
Yeah, and it's not like he went to AEW and was kind of defending New Japan. Like, he went and joined a faction and, like, just kind of became a part of the company and wasn't really New Japan Gabe Kidd. It just became, you know, Death Rider Gabe Kidd, and that was a completely different character. Like, yeah, it totally killed his credibility. And again, you go back to the pop he got when he unveiled the lion mark on the shorts and the match with Tsuji and just how hyped the crowd was for him. And then, yeah, you come back after that. It's just like, it's just never quite been the same. And, you know, he's a super talented guy, and I wish, you know, there could have been more done with him, especially after the Kenny Omega match. But, yeah, he kind of killed his credibility. And, I mean, the writing was on the wall that he was going to be going to AEW.
I think with the right creative, the right vision, there's a alternate universe where every single one of these guys that are positioned to leave, including Evil, could be used the right way to better, basically to continue to grow the company and stay hot and be on top or whatever. But I don't believe that that's where we were headed. All of these guys are aging. Like you said, the writing was on the wall for basically every single one of them. And I'm not surprised that any one of them might potentially, or all of them might potentially be leaving.
Yeah. And that leads into a question from Def Triangle 720 saying, hypothetically, let's say the talent who are rumored to leave actually all leave by next month. Do you think it may be a positive for New Japan?
I've already kind of laid out why I'm not too concerned. I think the other thing too is we have been following and covering this company for long enough to have lived through so many exoduses that I'm pretty much immune to it. And it's not like, here's the biggest difference. As great as all these guys are, it's not the same as when the very tip top guys, no one who's leaving right now is a tippy top major business mover, the way that it was when like Tetsuya Naito left, or Kazuchika Okada, or AJ Styles,
Nakamura.
Or Shinsuke Nakamura. It's not the same as those level of guys leaving the company, right? I think that it is a net positive because we've talked for so many years about all the pipeline of talent that they had, and how are we going to get them moved through that pipeline to give them the opportunities that they need. And it required people leaving the company. Yeah. And as more and more people leave, it just creates vacuums and opportunities.
Yeah, I think this is a great thing. I think, talent shakeups, talent moves is a healthy part of pro wrestling. You don't want guys on your roster forever and sitting there and being stale. So I think this is exciting. It's fresh. It's new. It opens the door for guys to get a chance. I mean, we're seeing guys get chance. I mean, Zane J is getting, he's graduated, being a part of a faction. Like, there are guys who are going to be able to move up the pecking order, be put in spots that they can't be put in before, and you see, it opens the door for guys to continue to elevate. Yuto Ice, a lot of these guys leaving, that opens up the room for him to continue to be elevated. So I think that's a great thing. And yeah, none of these guys are super top business movers, and a lot of them are very good workers. But like we talked about, New Japan produces good workers, and there are a ton of young guys who need the opportunity, need the space. And so again, it kind of gives them the chance and the opportunity. Like, all right, let's continue to go more with Umino and Narita and Uemura and Oiwa and Tsuji and really push this new generation of guys. His other question says, with the potential chance of Hiromu leaving New Japan, do you think New Japan look at Desperado being next up if Hiromu leaves?
I don't know. I mean, I don't really agree with that because I feel like Desperado's already passed Hiromu.
Yeah, I mean, they've almost kind of been pushed equally together. I mean, Despi is the other side of the coin pretty much to Hiromu, and they've had their feud and kind of thrown money together. And at this point, I feel like Despi's almost in the same boat as Hiromu. Like, he's done everything there is to do. He's been the junior champion multiple times, junior tag champion. He's won the Super Juniors. Like, what else is there for him to do in the junior division? And I don't know if it's the same situation where he doesn't want to go heavyweight, but outside of that, there's not really much anything left for him to do in the junior division. So he's kind of stale as well. And it's like that whole situation we talked about when we were previewing the Doki match. It's like, we don't want him to win because he's already had the belt, but we didn't want Doki to win either because of what he's doing. But it's like, yeah, he's in a position where it's like, I don't really want him to ever win the belt again or win a Super Juniors because we've been there, done that.
Yeah, I mean, Hiromu, I didn't even really remember this. Did you realize that Hiromu held the title for an entire year between 2023 and 2024?
Yeah, wasn't that the time where he was trying to break the defense record and ended up losing towards the end?
I guess. I don't really remember this, but he won the title January 4th, 2023. He defeated Ishimori, Wato, and Desperado at Wrestle Kingdom 17. And then he dropped the title a year later in the Tokyo Dome to Desperado. That was the last time that he held the title. That was 2 years ago. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's been a very long time since Hiromu was in the title picture realistically. since that time, Desperado has won the title 3 more times. And, he's held it for a very good period of time during that period. So it's like, I feel like he's been already past, like when he beat Hiromu for the title that time in the Tokyo Dome, that was the end of their feud. That was him moving on and surpassing him. So I think that they've already were well past that. And I agree with you. I'm still wondering like what's left for Desperado in the junior division, really.
Yeah. Then next questions here from MJ says, we're going to see a significant roster shift after New Beginning with the announced and soon to be announced departures, assuming some financial flexibility to add to the roster. Should NJPW look to add or no?
I think that you can't completely rule out the idea of searching for, finding, and utilizing new talent. So I think they should always be open to that. But are they going to be in the process of signing marketable big names from the West? I don't know. It depends. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm not even sure what names are really out there. I guess there's a rumor that Tommaso Ciampa wants to come to New Japan.
I put a post out about how Super Juniors is going to be lit. I don't think I have the audience to really have something like that take off. But if he comes over, he should not be a heavyweight. I know that there are people chomping at the bit. They want to see him wrestle some of the top heavyweights in the world. That's a little guy. He needs to be working Wato. He needs to be working Fujita. Fujita, Taguchi, all the juniors.
Yeah. Let's see. Next question here. It says, related, I'm not feeling particularly up in arms about any of these guys leaving. Feel like it's the right time for a lot of them. How we doing?
We got bigger things to worry about in the world right now. Much, much, much more serious, very heart-wrenching, concerning things than to worry about, these few small exoduses from New Japan. And it is funny because there are some people that are hurt. I'm seeing some
sad.
I'm seeing sad people online, and I'm like, it's just evil, right? Like, like, bro, it's just evil. Like, why are we so sad, dude?
Yeah. Well, let's move on. We got 2 upcoming Road to the New Beginning shows, the go-home shows for the New Beginning in Osaka. So night 5 of the tour will pick up in Korakuen Hall this coming Sunday, February 1st. We will have the finals of the Young Lions Cup with Shoma Kato and Katsuya Murashima. And, during the preview, I was thinking, it seems, too easy for them to go with the 2 most experienced young lions. There's got to be some other way to go. But no, they went the simple, easy route. The 2 most senior young lions are in the finals, Kato and Murashima. Josh, who you think's going to take the cup home?
That's usually what they do. And they also usually go with the guy that is the most established in terms of like seniority and exposure and work. And for me, I feel like that's Murashima. He was, Tanahashi's second. He's the guy that seems to be getting more opportunities in big matches night in and night out. I'm pretty sure that's the guy that's winning here.
Yeah, he got the victory at the Tokyo Dome, kind of debuted that jumping Boston Crab. So yeah, that would also be my pick as well, Murashima getting the win. Then following that, we'll have Umino, Tiger Mask, and Uemura taking on Gato and the Knockout Brothers. Tag title preview there. Then Bishamon, Bolton, and Taguchi will take on TM, DK, Harley Jackson, Kosei Fujita, Oiwa, and Sabre. Preview of the upcoming 6-man title match. And we had a question here from Foster Disbelief. Taking this off the Super J-Cast, all-time never 6-man teams better than Bolton, Yoshihashi, and Goto.
Well, I mean, there's only been 2 teams that are really noteworthy in the never title situation, and that would be Ishii and Bishamon, and then Ishii and
Mega Aces.
The Mega Aces.
Yeah. Yeah, outside that, I wouldn't put any other teams really above them.
I mean, if you wanted to get into the nitty gritty of like, okay, here's a team that on paper I like more, I guess we could look at that. But, because there are some interesting like teams where it's like, for like the Elite, for instance, they were champions, right? And that's one where you could be like, yeah, I like the Elite more than I like, say, these guys, but they didn't really do much as never champions necessarily. Yeah. Not to say that these guys have either, but like realistically, there's only been like two truly noteworthy, teams that were champions for extended periods.
Yeah.
And they both had Ishii on them.
Mm-hmm. So following that match, we're going to have United Empire, Grail Khan, Hanare back on the tour, and Zane J making his first appearance as a part of the group. We're taking on Unbound Company, Daiki Nagai, Drill Maloney, and Robbie X. So those two guys are coming on the tour. Then we got Aaron Wolf, Master Wato, Toriano, and Yo taking on the Hell of Torturers, Dick Togo, Doki, Ren Narita, and Yujiro Takahashi. Semi-main event, United Empire's Callum Newman and Jacob Austin Young taking on Unbound Company's Dave Finley and Hiromu Takahashi. And then the main event, big preview match here, United Empire, Francesco Akira, and Jake Lee taking on Taiji Ishimori and Yota Tsuji from the Unbound Company.
It is interesting how prior to Wrestle Kingdom, the hottest feud, just in terms of actual heat, the hottest feud going into the Tokyo Dome was the War Dog / unaffiliated versus United Empire, but it all pretty much circled around Callum Newman and David Finley. Mm-hmm. And now we're going into February and we're starting to get the payoff to that, but the feud has completely shifted away from them being the focal point in any real shape or form. It's all pretty much moved on to, okay, Callum Newman down the line has a future date with Will Ospreay. What's that about? And then the other part of it is Jake Lee versus Yota Tsuji. So in the midst of all these rumors about like, potentially Hiromu and Finley leaving, it seems like Finley kind of got left out in the cold.
Yeah.
When it comes to this feud. I do think that those top two matches are pretty interesting. It's always interesting when you have like big names and you're not 100% sure on who like the pin eater is going to be there, but it feels like it should be Jacob Austin Young doing a JOB in the semi-main event, I'd assume.
Yeah. Got Rich Latta in the chat saying, fellas.
And then in the main event there, Francesco Akira and Jake Lee, Taiji Ishimori and Yota Tsuji. That could go either way. If it's me, I probably have the United Empire team going over once again, just further solidifying Jake Lee as a dominant force heading into his match against Yota Tsuji.
Yeah, with a question from MJ, it says, is Jake a long-term fit for UE, or does he make more sense elsewhere?
I think that I could totally understand why people think that he might be bound for some other group, but I'm telling you right now that is the wrong way to go about this. I understand that there are those who are clamoring for Callum Newman to be the leader, but they've pretty much laid the groundwork that they're not ready to do that today. And it would only hurt Jake Lee's credibility to move factions in a very short succession. The only time that moving from another faction is really impactful is when you have a long tenured period of time with the group to embed yourself and really ingratiate yourself and developed that emotional attachment. We saw with a guy like Sonata, who just by making a few jumps in the matter of months went from being the ace of the company to being like a lower mid-card guy that nobody really, other than some freakazoids that liked his shiny outfits and his cheetah print hair and they like that shit, but like no one could take him seriously as like, he went from main eventing the Tokyo Dome to like not being on the Tokyo Dome. So it would be disastrous if your intention is we brought Jake Lee back and we want to establish him and make him into something. You don't want to have him jump from United Empire in any short period of time. It would really be bad for him.
Yeah, and I'm actually liking what he's been doing with United Empire, and I know there's a lot of Jake Lee naysayers, and people kind of point back to a lot of his runs in All Japan and Noah, and but so far, I'm kind of liking his presentation in United Empire. I'm liking his character and kind of what he's doing. Obviously, we got to wait until the bell rings to see if this push is really worth it. But so far, I think this has probably been the best usage of Jake Lee in New Japan.
I agree. And I feel like last week I laid out a pretty compelling argument for why the story for him and Yota Tsuji is working and is the logical way to go about things. And I know there's been some complaints out there about what they've done, the booking, the story, the logic. And the more that time has passed, the more I feel embedded in what I said last week and how I think they're telling the right story with the right character motivations and movements.
Yeah. And then the following night's New Beginning show, Road to New Beginning, is going to be Monday, February 2nd from Korakuen Hall. So we'll have Yasuda, Umino, and Uemura taking on Naka Brothers and Daiki Nagai. Aaron Wolf, Wato, Yano, and Yo taking on Dick Togo, Doki, Ren Narita, and Kanemaru. Cal Newman, Akira, Jacob Austin Young against Finley, Gato, and Hiromu. Great Okan, Hanare, Jake Lee, and Zane J taking on Drilla Maloney, Robbie X, Taiji Shimori, and Yota Tsuji. And then we're going to end the show with 3 big singles matches all around the Never Six-Man title. So we got Hartley Jackson versus Bolton Oleg, Zack Sabre Jr. versus Yoshihashi, and Hiroki Goto versus Rei Oiwa in the main event.
Here's the fun thing about this one. In most common occurrences, you would just say like, okay, Oleg Bolton is going to beat Hartley Jackson. Zack Sabre Jr. is going to beat Yoshihashi. And then obviously like Goto and Oiwa is kind of like the coin toss. And maybe that is the way it goes. But because they're going to probably do one person from each team wins, they could flip the script here and potentially do Hartley Jackson beats Oleg Bolton, Yoshihashi beats Zack. I think that because there's not huge stakes involved, these are just preview matches, and they don't have the same kind of ramifications that say like a singles elimination in like a New Japan Cup or like vying for a title might have throughout the year. These are those kind of fun one-off situations where you could do upsets. I kind of am wondering if Hartley Jackson and Yoshihashi pulled upsets here leading into Goto versus Oiwa.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be very intriguing because, I feel like, it's kind of obvious if you look at it. Yeah, well, Hartley never wins. Yoshihashi should lose to Zack. So I think it could be fun to mix it up and have Hartley Jackson get a big win, give him a little bit more credibility, and have Yoshihashi pull the upset over Zack. And then, I think either way, it's all going to come down to the main event. And you did have Goto, pinning Oiwa to win the titles back. And so based off that match, I kind of felt like, Goto's going to kind of be like the big bad that Oiwa needs to chase this year, but they're kind of getting right back to it. So I think, either you have Oiwa get the win back here right away, or he fails once again to beat Goto. And then when you get to the title match, it's down to Oiwa and Goto, and Oiwa finally pins Goto there and wins the titles back.
My personal feeling is probably this. This is just gut. I think if they do the chalk picks, if they have Oleg and Zack win, then that's a situation where it makes the most sense to have Oiwa pick up the upset surprise victory over Goto because you've gone chalk the whole way now. And then plus him getting the revenge from having the pin eater when they drop the belts. If you do the outside the chalk pick and you have Hartley and Yoshihashi both pull upsets, then Goto is probably going to be the equalizing force that like stops the upsets for the evening and picks up the win for his team.
Yeah.
So with that being the case, now that I've speculated enough, I think we're probably going to see Oleg and Zack both win. And then I think Oiwa is going to be the guy that kind of surprises Goto in a big singles match on the evening.
Yeah, that's probably a safe bet to go there with predictions. And then last week, they did announce the full card for the New Beginning in Osaka, which will be Wednesday, February 11th from the Edion Arena, Osaka. We'll do our full preview and predictions next week, but we'll just run through the card here. We got Akira and Jacob Austin Young against Hiromu and Taiji Shimori. War Dragons versus Great Okan Hinare. The Never Six-Man title match. Bishamon and Bolton versus Hartley, Oiwa, and Zack Sabre Jr. Andrade El Idolo versus Gabe Kidd. David Finlay versus Callum Newman. The Never Openweight title match. Aaron Wolf defends against Ren Narita. IWGP title match. The Knockout Brothers defend against Rough Storm. And then the main event will be for the IWGP World title. Yota Tsuji defends against Jake Lee. And we did have a question about the tag title match from Wukong 901. It says, who y'all got? Shota, Yuya versus Knockout Brothers.
Yeah, I think that we're going to see new champions here. And I've been predicting new champions in February since these guys won the titles last year. So it's all going according to plan.
Yeah, as of right now, I'm going with Rough Storm. Yeah, being new champs. And Solid Deuce says, do you guys think they're crazy enough to put Uemura in House of Torture? Everyone thought Yo was turning, but the opposite happened. Umino would get betrayed twice, plus it mimics what Sonata did.
I don't know, maybe, but like, I'll tell you this, Umino has not shown himself to be the likable, relatable, Sting-esque character who continuously gets betrayed and garners the love of the fans. Like, this guy gets turned on and people are like, good.
He deserves it.
Fuck him. So I don't know if you want to keep doubling down on that one. There's not too much water left in that well.
Yeah. Well, that does it for talks about New Beginning and leading up to the New Beginning in Osaka. Just one of the news item, a couple questions, and we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, so basically in the news, we got an announcement that New Japan Pro Wrestling has announced the creation of a new management strategy division effective February 1st, aimed at strengthening strategic marketing for further business expansion. The division will be led by Taro Okada, who will also continue in his current role as the president of Stardom. And then in terms of questions here, Death Triangle 720 says, does New Japan pull an Ospreay 2019 booking and have Despy potentially win the Never title and go on to be in the New Japan Cup and or a G1?
I mean, it's a possibility. I mean, that would be if Despy is going to stay around for the long haul. I mean, that's the direction I would go. I don't think there's much for him to do in the junior division.
I agree, but it also feels like if they were wanting to do that, they would have already done it, and they've been so reticent to do that up to this point already.
Yeah.
And then the last question here from Suki, random as fuck, but who is a wrestler that just embodies a certain G1 block? Example, Okada was in A block every year, and I don't care what the truth says, Ishii was also in B block for at least 30 years straight.
Well, yeah, those are two good examples. Yeah, when I think of A block, normally I'm like, yeah, Ace. I'm thinking like, yeah, Okada, Tanahashi. I feel like that those two have always kind of been A block guys. Yeah, and then B block's usually kind of like your never hard hitter guys. Ishii, Goto. Just visually what it feels like. I'm sure that the stats will probably end up saying different, but
yeah, I feel like there's a lot of people who are better at making the inferences and connections when it comes to the trends as it pertains to like the G1. And I'm not ever someone that's as good at that sort of thing. I know in our Discord, the Bad Fraser was, he was basically positing the idea that, or the fact that Okada and Naito were kept apart from each other for many, many years in the G1s. And in most cases, I think he said, and I could be wrong here, I think he was saying Okada was usually A block and Naito was typically B block, or the other way around.
Yeah.
There's probably something to that, For me, when I think of who I identify with the G1 or who embodies a block of the G1, it's not so much the fact of how often they're in the block or how they're positioned within the company. To me, it's always how did they perform? You know what I mean? And I feel like that is something I would need to spend more time kind of like focusing on, like, okay, who is consistently the highest performing wrestler in just one, not in the tournament as a whole, but just in one particular block. And I feel like for many years, I could be wrong here, but I feel like the B block typically had Ishii and or Ibushi. And I feel like those guys are always like the MVP. So you probably like wind up with like, and then not to forget, like did we have 2 years where there was 4 blocks?
Yes, I think so.
So there's also that to kind of consider. But yeah, for me, I feel like when I think of like the prime G1s, like from 2013 to like 2019, like the best G1s, or even like you can even throw that up to probably like 2021, really. You're gonna be looking at like Ishii and Ibushi as being like your very tip top performers year in and year out for, 7, 8, 9 years. But I don't know. Like I always feel like the B block was better too. Yeah. Oftentimes.
Yeah, so I feel like Ishii was like in the B block a lot, and yeah, you would have guys like Ishii, Goto, Ibushi, Shingo, like all in his B block is having bangers.
Yeah, and then you got guys like Naito, Okada, picking and choosing when they want to turn it on.
Yeah.
Then you got guys like Evil trying to turn it. Bro, I swear to God, that's the funniest thing is like you look at Evil and you look at his cage match, and there's this like thing where in 2019, like Dave is giving him a bunch of 4.5 stars or whatever, and like people are like he was the fucking truth. I have no fucking recollection of liking anything, and this is pre House of Torture. This was like him probably knowing he's on the cusp, getting ready for the big push. This is after the match with Jericho and everything like that. Him trying his heart out. You know what I mean? I have no fucking recollection of his 2019 tournament. I would love to go back and listen to what our, the post 2019 G1 review was. Cause I bet you it's probably me being like, I don't know what the fuck everyone's talking about. This dude Evil was mid as fuck, just turning it on, just having a couple, fighting spirit spots here and there doesn't make you a great wrestler.
Yeah.
But,
and you mentioned Jericho. I'm pretty sure he said on his podcast, like around that time, like when he was kind of, doing the behind the scenes on the angle, and he was kind of like, oh, they wanted me to work with Evil. I'm like, that guy, I guess. Okay.
Yeah, I remember it came out at some point where he was saying like they told him he was going to be champion, and that he knew like ahead of time. That's why they had him work with him or whatever.
Yeah,
but that's pretty much going to do it. We just hit the 2-hour mark. Rich, I know you jumped in. You wanted to hear the Evil burial. You probably have to tune back in tomorrow when this hits the airwaves or whatever, because it's done. But I don't know. I don't have anything else. Good riddance.
But yeah, that's going to wrap it up. So next week we'll be back to review those 2 Road 2 shows and give our final preview and predictions for the New Beginning in Osaka.
That's another thing too, bro. Look at that card for New Beginning in Osaka. It's fire up and down. And the tag team titles are like second from the top. That's how KOB are like fucking on top right now.
That real, yeah.
That never happens.
That pro wrestling high, big up.
But it's like, no Evil, no Sonata. Things get immensely better immediately. So it's like, for all y'all crying your eyes out, just look at the New Beginning card. Tell me that things haven't gotten better. Tell me that your life hasn't improved immensely. And
I keep seeing reports that this every ticket they put out keeps getting sold out, and they're doing great ticket sales for this event.
They're selling a lot of tickets. People are saying like, oh, Ren Narita can't lead the group. Well, apparently they want to see him and Aaron Wolf fight, but Evil even hasn't hurt ticket sales one iota.
Yeah.
Sonata who?
So remember, if you want to watch our show live or listen without ads, sign up at patreon.com/KI StrongStyle. You can also make a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate. Click on the donate button under the Keeping a Strong Style logo. Make sure to connect with us on social media on X and Blue Sky. Follow us at KI Strong Style at Social Suplex, at Jeremy L. Donovan, at YB_Josh and Liger. On Facebook, follow us at facebook.com/Social Suplex and the Wrestling Square Circle Facebook group. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy, just Keepin Strong Style. On YouTube, we are at Social Suplex. Join our Social Suplex Discord server to interact with us and other wrestling fans. You can email me, Jeremy, at socialsuplex.com, and check out all the other shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network, One Nation Radio with Rich and James, All Things Elite with Floyd and Austin, Imps AEW Adventure, Wrestling Art with Chris Slings, Tunnel Talk with Allie and Leah, the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast, and Joshying Around with Tim and Eric. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review, and we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Ichiban and Evil, you can go straight to hell.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.
If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.